My name is Olivia, and I've never been the kind of girl who asked for much. At 22, I've learned the value of hard work, saving every penny, and keeping my head down. I'm not flashy, not loud, I'm just me. I've been battling a painful jaw condition for the past few years. The doctors called it mandibular misalignment, an issue that started small, but grew worse over time. Smiling hurt, eating hurt, some days, even talking was exhausting. The surgery wasn't cosmetic, it was necessary, but it was expensive, and my insurance only covered part of it. I live at home with my parents and my younger sister, Bella. From the outside, we probably look like a perfectly put together family, but inside these walls, it's always felt like I was the background character in someone else's spotlight. My parents, especially my mother, have always been obsessed with appearances. What will people think was her favorite phrase. As for my dad, he was quiet and firm, rarely saying much unless it was to agree with her. Bella, at 19, is the golden girl. She's everything I'm not. Gorgeous, effortlessly popular, always at the center of attention. My parents adore her. They post her photos online like she's a model, brag about her like she's royalty, and bend over backward to make her happy. Lately, my parents have been talking about how tight money's been. We're just trying to keep things afloat, they'd say, when I offered to help with groceries. So, when I finally built up the courage to ask them for help with my surgery, I did it hesitantly, half expecting a no, but I still hoped, because if not your parents, then who can you rely on? Apparently, I was wrong to believe they'd say yes. I waited until after dinner, when the kitchen was clean and the house quiet, to bring it up. My heart was pounding so hard, I could feel it in my throat. My mom was scrolling on her tablet, and my dad had just settled into his recliner. Bella was upstairs, probably filming another makeup tutorial, or trying on the latest haul from the boutique she frequented. I stood in the living room doorway, wringing my hands. Mom, Dad, do you have a minute? They both looked up. My mom raised an eyebrow. What is it, Olivia? I swallowed hard. It's about the surgery, the jaw alignment one. The doctor said it's only getting worse, and the longer I wait, the more complicated and expensive it will become. I've saved up a good portion, but I'm still short a few thousand. I was wondering if you'd be able to help me cover the rest. For a moment, there was silence. My dad looked at my mom. She sighed like I'd just asked for a vacation to Europe. Olivia, she said, folding her arms. We've already talked about this. Things are tight right now. You know that. But this is medical, I pleaded. I can't keep putting it off. I'm in pain every day. You're young, she said sharply. You'll manage. Honestly, it sounds more cosmetic than anything. Your face looks fine. You've gone this long without it. Can't you just tough it out a little longer? My dad nodded silently. That was always his role. Quiet confirmation. My chest tightened. It's not cosmetic, I whispered. It hurts to eat. It hurts to talk sometimes. I can't sleep from the jaw spasms. Olivia, we're doing what we can, my mom said, her tone final. There are bills to pay, things you don't understand. It's not all about you. That last line hit harder than I expected. I nodded, tears stinging my eyes, and turned away. I didn't cry in front of them. I waited until I was back in my room, door closed, face buried in my pillow. That night, I let it all out. The pain, the disappointment, the ache of knowing that even when I truly needed them, they still chose not to help. The next morning, I plastered on a smile for work. My coworker and friend Jade noticed something was off. You okay? She asked quietly as we prepped for opening. I hesitated, then shook my head. Not really, just family stuff. Jade didn't press, but she gave me a gentle hug. You don't have to go through stuff alone, you know. You've got me. It wasn't much, but it meant everything. That night, I lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. If my parents weren't going to help me, then fine. I'd figure it out. Somehow, I'd find a way to save more. Work harder, make it happen. I didn't need their money. I just wished I had their support. But clearly, I wasn't worth the cost. 2.5 weeks after that conversation, things at home were unusually cheerful. My mother was humming while she cooked. My dad had been mysteriously busy, always heading out and returning with that smug, secretive smile he wore during Christmas shopping. And Bella, she floated through the house like a queen expecting a coronation. Didn't ask questions. I kept my head down, went to work, and tried not to think about the mounting pain in my jaw, or the fact that I was still thousands short for the surgery I desperately needed. I figured whatever this surprise was, it had nothing to do with me. It never did. Then one Saturday morning, I was woken up earlier than usual by Bella banging on my door. "Liv, come downstairs," she shrieked. "You have to see this." Still, half asleep, I dragged myself out of bed and padded down to the driveway in my pajamas. That's when I saw it. Parked in front of our house, wrapped in a giant red bow, was a brand new, sparkling white BMW X3, sleek, shiny, impossibly expensive. I stopped cold on the porch. Bella screamed in excitement, jumping up and down in her crop top and fluffy slippers. My mom was clapping, my dad beaming like he'd just won the lottery. "Surprise!" my mom shouted, handing Bella a set of keys. "It's all yours, sweetie." My stomach twisted. I clapped lightly, forcing a weak smile, as Bella launched herself into the driver's seat and started revving the engine like she was in a movie. Everyone laughed and took selfies around the car, except me. The cost of that car, easily $50,000, flashed in my mind, double what my surgery would have been. I swallowed hard, fighting the bile in my throat. They said things were tight. They said they couldn't help me, and yet, later that night, while cleaning up the kitchen, I overheard my parents talking. In the next room. "I can't believe we pulled it off without Bella finding out," my dad said proudly. "I was worried the dealership paperwork would come in the mail." "Relax," my mom replied, giggling. "It's paid in full. No financing, no leasing. Bella deserves the best. We promised her this when she got that modeling contract." I froze. Paid in full. They had the money. They just chose not to spend it on me. Something inside me cracked. I walked into the room, trembling but firm. "You paid for the car?" I asked quietly. "In full?" They turned, startled. My mom's smile faded. "Olivia, don't eavesdrop. You said money was tight," I said, louder this time. "You said you couldn't help me because of bills. My surgery isn't even half of what that car costs." My dad crossed his arms. "Bella has a promising career. She needs a reliable car, and I need a functional jaw." I snapped. "Do you even hear yourselves?" My mom rolled her eyes. "Don't make this about you. You're being dramatic." "I'm in pain every single day," I said, voice cracking. "And you gave Bella a luxury car because of her Instagram contract." "She earned it," my dad said. "She brings attention to the family. You've always been fine on your own." That was it. The final gut punch. Not only had they refused to help me, they'd never really seen me at all. I turned away, heart splintering, and walked upstairs without another word. And this time, I didn't cry. I was done begging for love that had conditions. The days that followed felt like walking through thick fog. I went to work, came home, and shut myself in my room. I barely spoke to anyone in the house. My mum didn't seem to notice. Or maybe she just didn't care. Bella was too busy showing off her new car on Instagram, captioning her posts with hashtags like, "Blessed and Shark a dream come true." My dad avoided me altogether. The pain in my jaw was getting worse. The tension radiated up into my temples, making it hard to sleep. I started skipping meals because chewing hurt too much. I'd lie in bed at night, staring at the ceiling, letting my mind drift to places it shouldn't. Maybe if I was prettier. Maybe if I was more successful, louder, shinier, more like Bella. Would they have helped me then? Would I have mattered? My thoughts turned darker with each passing day. I thought of the time in middle school when I came home with a 98 on my math exam, and my mom barely glanced at it before saying, "Well, Bella got 100. I remembered being grounded for getting a B in science, while Bella skipped class and came home with designer shoes. They always found a way to explain it, to justify it. Bella was creative, special, meant for big things. I was just the responsible one, the quiet one, the one who would figure it out on her own. One evening, Jade noticed I hadn't been myself. "You've been shrinking into yourself lately," she said as we closed the cafe. "Talk to me, Liv. I'm worried." I shook my head, blinking back tears. "It's just family stuff. I feel like I don't matter to them, like I never have." Jade reached out and grabbed my hand. "That's not true. You matter. Just because your family doesn't show it, doesn't mean you're not worthy of love, Olivia. Real love, not that performative stuff your mom clings to." Her words hit something deep. I nodded, not trusting my voice, and hugged her. But the sadness didn't leave. It clung to me like a shadow, growing heavier by the day. I began to wonder if maybe I really didn't deserve help. Maybe I wasn't enough. And yet, somewhere inside that hollow ache, a voice whispered, "You are not crazy. You are not ungrateful. You are just tired of proving your worth to people who refuse to see it." That was the night I deleted every family photo from my phone. I wasn't doing it to be petty. I was doing it to protect myself, to draw a boundary. Because if this was what love looked like, silent suffering, conditional support, invisible wounds, then maybe I didn't want it. Not from them. My grandpa lives about an hour outside the city, in a small brick house with a wraparound porch and a faded American flag that flutters from an old pole. He's my dad's father, retired military, silver hair always neatly combed, voice low and steady. Growing up, I always loved visiting him. He wasn't a man of many words, but when he spoke, he meant them. One weekend after another, hollow, dinner at home, where Bella spent 20 minutes bragging about leather interiors and backup cameras. I packed a small bag and told my parents I needed air. I didn't ask for permission. "Olivia," Grandpa greeted me when I arrived, eyes squinting under his ball cap. "You look tired, sweetheart." I gave him a weak smile and tried to hide the stiffness in my jaw. "Just a long week." He didn't push. He never did. But he made me tea, asked about work, and let me sit quietly on the porch swing while the sun began to dip below the trees. I think he knew I just needed to be near someone who wouldn't ask me to pretend. That night after dinner, he finally spoke up. "You've been hurting a long time, haven't you?" I looked up from my mug. My throat tightened. "It's nothing. I mean, yeah, the surgery's still not done, but I'll figure it out eventually." His eyes narrowed, not in anger, but with concern. "Your parents refused to help." I blinked, stunned. "How did you—" "I may be old, but I'm not blind," he said quietly. "I've watched how they treat you compared to Bella. I saw it even when you were kids. It wasn't fair then. And it sure as hell isn't fair now. Something inside me cracked open. I hadn't expected it, but the words tumbled out of me like floodwaters breaking a dam. I told him everything. The pain, the rejection, the car, the overheard conversation, the part of me that kept wondering if maybe I just wasn't enough. By the time I finished, my hands were shaking. He reached over and gently placed his calloused hand over mine. Olivia, listen to me. You are not invisible. I see you. I always have. Tears spilled down my cheeks. I remember when you were 9, he said. You gave up your birthday money to help Bella buy that ridiculous pink karaoke machine. Didn't even think twice. And your parents acted like it was her generosity. That's always stayed with me. He got up and walked into the other room. When he came back, he held a small black leather notebook. Inside were neatly organized bank statements, dates, and a few handwritten notes. I've been putting money aside for years, he said. For you, just in case. I knew there might come a time when you needed help and had nowhere to turn. I hoped your parents would come around, but... He shook his head slowly. My mouth opened, but no sound came. I'm going to pay for your surgery, he said firmly. Every single penny, and I won't hear another word about it. It's not charity. It's justice. I couldn't stop crying, not just because of the money, but because, for the first time in a long time, I felt seen, fully, without conditions. I don't know what to say, I whispered. Just promise me one thing, he said, smiling gently, that you'll never let anyone make you feel small again. You are not your parents' disappointment, Olivia. You are my granddaughter, and that means something. I nodded, overwhelmed. That night, I slept more peacefully than I had in months. My grandpa lives about an hour outside the city, in a small brick house with a wraparound porch and a faded American flag that flutters from an old pole. He's my dad's father. Retired military, silver hair always neatly combed, voice low and steady. Growing up, I always loved visiting him. He wasn't a man of many words, but when he spoke, he meant them. One weekend, after another hollow dinner at home, where Bella spent 20 minutes bragging about leather interiors and backup cameras, I packed a small bag and told my parents I needed air. I didn't ask for permission. Olivia, Grandpa greeted me when I arrived, eyes squinting under his ball cap. You look tired, sweetheart. I gave him a weak smile and tried to hide the stiffness in my jaw. Just a long week. He didn't push. He never did. But he made me tea, asked about work, and let me sit quietly on the porch swing while the sun began to dip below the trees. I think he knew I just needed to be near someone who wouldn't ask me to pretend. That night after dinner, he finally spoke up. You've been hurting a long time, haven't you? I looked up from my mug. My throat tightened. It's nothing. I mean, yeah, the surgery's still not done, but I'll figure it out eventually. His eyes narrowed, not in anger, but with concern. Your parents refused to help. I blinked, stunned. How did you... I may be old, but I'm not blind, he said quietly. I've watched how they treat you compared to Bella. I saw it even when you were kids. It wasn't fair then, and it sure as hell isn't fair now. Something inside me cracked open. I hadn't expected it, but the words tumbled out of me like floodwaters breaking a dam. I told him everything. The pain, the rejection, the car, the overheard conversation, the part of me that kept wondering if maybe I just wasn't enough. By the time I finished, my hands were shaking. He reached over and gently placed his calloused hand over mine. Olivia, listen to me. You are not invisible. I see you. I always have. Tears spilled down my cheeks. I remember when you were 9, he said. You gave up your birthday money to help Bella buy that ridiculous pink karaoke machine. Didn't even think twice. And your parents acted like it was her generosity. That's always stayed with me. He got up and walked into the other room. When he came back, he held a small black leather notebook. Inside were neatly organized bank statements, dates, and a few handwritten notes. I've been putting money aside for years, he said. For you, just in case. I knew there might come a time when you needed help and had nowhere to turn. I hoped your parents would come around, but... He shook his head slowly. My mouth opened, but no sound came. I'm going to pay for your surgery, he said firmly. Every single penny, and I won't hear another word about it. It's not charity. It's justice. I couldn't stop crying, not just because of the money, but because, for the first time in a long time, I felt seen, fully, without conditions. I don't know what to say, I whispered. Just promise me one thing, he said, smiling gently, that you'll never let anyone make you feel small again. You are not your parents' disappointment, Olivia. You are my granddaughter. And that means something. I nodded, overwhelmed. That night, I slept more peacefully than I had in months. The surgery was scheduled 2 weeks after Grandpa made the arrangements. It all happened faster than I expected. But there was no hesitation in his voice when he made the call. We're not waiting anymore, he said. You've waited long enough. The hospital lights were bright and cold. The scent of antiseptic lingered in every corner. I remember lying on the operating table, numb from anesthesia, and thinking, this is finally happening. I'm finally choosing myself. The surgery went well, according to the doctors. It wasn't. Painless. Far from it. The days that followed were a blur of swelling, aching, and trying to sip soup through a straw without crying. I couldn't talk much at all at first, which in a strange way felt fitting. I was learning to heal in silence, but I wasn't alone. Grandpa was there every step of the way. He stayed in the guest room at my Apari. A few weeks into my recovery, I posted a photo on social media. Nothing dramatic, just me sitting in Grandpa's garden, the sunlight catching the fading bruises on my face, the swelling almost gone. I was smiling, gently, peace in my eyes for the first time in years. The caption was simple, grateful for the one person who chose love over image, healing, inside and out, not invisible, found my voice. I didn't tag anyone. I didn't need to, but it didn't take long for people to start asking questions. My cousin Clara, who'd always been a little more observant than the rest of the family, sent me a DM. Hey, is everything okay? Heard you had surgery. Your mum said you were fine, but I'm not sure I believe her. I hesitated at first, then typed back. I'm fine now. Grandpa made sure of it. That was all it took. Within 24 hours, the story started to unravel in the extended family circle. Clara had always been the type to connect the dots, and soon she'd pieced everything together. How my parents refused to pay for my surgery while splurging on Bella's luxury car. How I'd been suffering silently, and how Grandpa had stepped in. Clara shared the truth in the family group chat, and everything exploded. My phone buzzed non-stop for hours. Aunts and uncles messaged me in shock. Some sent supportive messages. Others were angry, mostly at my parents. A few, predictably, said I should have kept it private. But the damage was done. My parents tried to spin it. They posted online about sacrifices parents make and how some decisions are misunderstood until later. My mom even called me, voice strained with performative sadness. We didn't know it was that serious, she said. You could have come to us again. I didn't answer. Bella, on the other hand, faced a different storm. Comments started appearing under her. posts, people calling her spoiled, tone deaf, selfish. She turned off her Instagram comments for the first time in years. That, more than anything, probably stung. For once, the spotlight wasn't flattering. And for once, I wasn't the one made to feel small. A few weeks after the fallout, I got a formal message from my mother. Family dinner this Saturday. We expect you to be there. We need to clear the air. No apology. No warmth. Just expectation. Still, I agreed to go. Not for them, but for me. I was ready to speak the truth. Not for revenge, but for peace. When I arrived, the tension in the house was thick enough to cut with a knife. Everyone was dressed up as if image could still save them. Bella sat stiffly at the dining table, eyes glued to her untouched plate. My father's jaw was clenched. My mother offered a forced smile. "We wanted to speak with you," she began, "because it seems like private matters have become public in a way that reflects poorly on this family." I tilted my head slightly. "You mean the truth?" Her expression faltered. "You've embarrassed us, Olivia," my father added, trying to regain control. "There are better ways to handle conflict than airing dirty laundry for everyone to pick through." That was it. I stood, calm but clear. "You know what's embarrassing? Watching your daughter suffer in silence and calling it character building. Telling me you didn't have money while handing Bella a luxury car with a red bow on top." "Olivia," my mother began. "No, you don't get to speak over me anymore. You cared more about showing off than showing up for me. And I'm not angry anymore. Just done." The silence was deafening. Grandpa, who had been seated quietly at the head of the table, cleared his throat. "I've said very little these past few years, because I was hoping you'd see your daughters for who they truly are. One sacrificed for the other. One was ignored, while the other was celebrated. But now, I'm making it clear, Olivia has my full support. She always has. And she'll be written into my will accordingly." That shut them up. My mother blinked in disbelief. My father's face went pale. Bella looked like she wanted to shrink into her seat. Bella finally spoke. "I didn't know it was that serious, Liv. I mean, I didn't know they told you no." Her voice was small, defensive. "I believe you didn't know," I said. "But you never asked. You never noticed. That says enough." She nodded slowly, swallowing her pride. "I'm sorry, for real." "I appreciate that," I replied honestly. "But I need space. I'm not angry, Bella. Just learning to protect myself." And that was the truth. I wasn't here for vengeance. I didn't need to scream or cry anymore. I'd said what I needed to say. As I walked out of that house with Grandpa by my side, I felt lighter. Not because they changed, but because I had closure. Not revenge months have passed since that final dinner. The pain has faded. Both the sharp ache in my body and the deeper wound in my heart. I still think about everything that happened, but not with bitterness, with clarity. I used to believe love meant sacrifice. That if I gave enough, stayed quiet enough, waited long enough, I'd earn my parents' approval. But I've learned something far more valuable. Real love doesn't ask you to shrink. It holds space for you to grow. Grandpa taught me that. He never demanded gratitude, never expected perfection. He saw me, not just as the daughter left in the shadows, but as someone worthy of being chosen, someone worth fighting for. The surgery changed my body, but the truth, what happened afterward, changed me. I'm stronger now, physically, yes, but also in ways that can't be seen. I've set boundaries. I've learned to say no without guilt. I no longer seek validation from people who only loved a version of me that made them look good. I look at my reflection sometimes and trace the faint lines near my jaw, scars, reminders of the pain I endured, and I smile, because they tell a story, not of weakness, but of survival, of reclaiming my voice. Grandpa's last checkup, we sat under the porch again, sipping tea like old times. I thanked him, again, for everything. He patted my hand and said, with a glint in his eye, "Blood makes you related. Love makes you family." That's the truth I carry forward. Not all family is built on DNA. Some of it is built on compassion, choice, and the courage to see someone for who they are and love them anyway. And in that truth, I've finally found peace.